So I'm Laura McClendon. I work with the Montgomery Area Chamber of Commerce. I am our Chief of Staff, but I also handle our federal government affairs strategies here at the Chamber. So we have followed for a long time, for the past year, what has happened with regard to COVID relief, but also relief for our small business community throughout what has been, I know, a very difficult time for a number of sectors. We know, of course, at the Chamber that our hospitality, entertainment, and tourism sector have been particularly hard hit by COVID. And we're interested to see a few programs come through the recently passed American Rescue Plan that caught our attention and thought that they would be of interest to a lot of our members, especially in those sectors. So with us today, we have two wonderful panelists. We have Mr. Tom Todt, who is the District Director for the SBA's Alabama District Office, which is based in Birmingham. He began his duties as District Director in June 2008, and in this role, he oversees a professional staff of 10 in the delivery of SBA's financial assistance, entrepreneurial development, business training, government contracting, and other marketing and outreach programs throughout Alabama's 67 counties. This delivery network includes 10 small business development centers, 6 SCORE chapters, 3 women's business centers, 4 certified development companies, and dozens of lending institutions. Tom, thank you so much. I'll go ahead and introduce Ms. Suzanne Darden as well, and then we'll hear from Tom first, who will provide us a little bit of information. We are, of course, here today to talk about the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant Program. So Ms. Suzanne Darden is the financial specialist with the statewide Alabama Small Business Development Center Network based at the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa. The SBDC provides technical assistance to help small businesses secure capital for startup and growth. Suzanne is a key leader with the SBDC's Capital Access Program, a position she's held since 2013. In the last 3 years, the SBDC has helped secure over $318 million in capital projects for manufacturing, healthcare, hospitality, hotel, multi-use residential and retail complexes, and other business projects throughout the state. Suzanne was awarded the 2018 SBDC State Star for Outstanding Performance among the nationwide SBDC program and is the go-to person for Alabama businesses seeking access to capital. So with that, Tom, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you to start us with a little bit of information on your end, and then we can, of course, have Suzanne jump in right after.
Thanks, Laura and Jenna. Appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Appreciate the invitation. I'll try not to break the internet today. I'm a ham-fisted ox sometime, and I told Jenna I've been thrown out of a lot of Zoom rooms that they just kind of lock up on me. So if I just suddenly go away, I'll jump in there, okay? And I'll try and get back in. I do appreciate the invitation to be here. When you work for the federal government, you appreciate the invitation to be anywhere. So I'm having I'm an old dog and I'm having to learn new tricks, because when I started with the SBA in 2008, part of my standard commentary was, well, the SBA doesn't make grants to small businesses. And now it's like, oh, wait, yes, we do. We got 2 grants to talk about. So we're going to talk about the SVOG today, the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. And I'm going to refer to it as SVOG because I'm old and tired, and all those syllables are just too many. So, but if I use a term you don't understand, if I lapse into government speak, please call me on it and I'll try and explain myself. So first I want to tell you about a resource, and you'll get something at the end of this, but all of the information about this and other COVID-19 programs from SBA are at www.sba.gov/SVOG. So that's where this one is. And there will be another link afterwards that you'll have access to. This is kind of a new thing for us because, as I said, we historically have not made grants to small businesses. The SVOG is being administered by the Office of Disaster Assistance, ODA. So a couple of wrinkles here, and I would refer everybody back to the website, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But because of the way the law is written, this is an outright grant program. So as a result, federal employees like SBA employees in the district office are prohibited from helping people answer questions about their grant application. Training, we're prohibited from training. So the Office of Disaster Assistance has done a great job of putting together some helps at the website that I gave you, sba.gov/SVOG. So, and we also have great resource partners in the Alabama Small Business Development Center network. So Suzanne will tell you that they stand ready and willing to help you do that. And if somebody calls the district office, all we can do is refer you to the website. One of the big things there is FAQs, frequently asked questions, and that is a very dynamic product, because a couple of days ago when I looked, it was 26 pages. And this morning it's 37 pages. So as they get information, they're posting it there to try and answer questions that applicants and entities have regarding this program. So it is an outright grant program, so it's different. It's not like our loan forgiveness program like the PPP, and certain guidelines apply. You will have to have a couple of things differently with this program. You'll have to have a DUNS number, which stands for Data Universal Numbering System. And those are issued by Dun & Bradstreet. And it doesn't cost anything to get those. And I think Suzanne may talk more about the nuts and bolts of doing this. But then the other thing you have to be is registered in SAM, System for Awards Management. So that's the, and don't blame it on SB. It's a GSA database, and that's the one that companies have to be registered in if they want to get paid by the government under this program. So that's two big wrinkles. And just by way of contrast, I want to mention we're not talking about the Restaurant Recovery Fund today, but I do want to mention that the RRF Restaurant Recovery Fund will be coming online in a few days. And that's also a grant. That program is being overseen by the Office of Capital Access, which oversees our other loan programs except for disaster. And that will not require a DUNS number, and that will not require registration in SAM. Don't ask me why that is. All that happens way above my pay grade, but that's the difference between the restaurant fund and the SVOG. So the website is the best place to go to for information regarding the program. And ordinarily I would be hesitant to say that, because throughout the pandemic, our website, SBA's website, has not been the latest and the greatest. In early days, I referred people to the Treasury website when we were doing the Paycheck Protection Program rollout. But folks have really gone out, and the website now at sba.gov is really up to speed on this. So the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, the portal is ready to open tomorrow. I don't know what time that will be, but hopefully if you're interested in applying, you will have done some homework already and have your registry, your active registration in SAM, System for Awards Management, and all that entails. That'll move you along greatly. Eligible applicants under this program can apply for grants equal to 45% of their gross earned revenue, up to a maximum of 10 million. So it's not too shabby for free money. SBA has reserved $2 billion for eligible applications with up to 50 full-time employees. So we're trying to catch a lot of the smaller folks who have been lost in the shuffle with some of our other programs. There are a lot of supplemental documents. I'm on the website. I mentioned the FAQs, frequently asked questions. There's a list of the eligibility requirements, preliminary application checklist, which is about 6 pages, and then cross-program eligibility. So if you go to the website, all those blue links, you can click on those and get more information. Virtually, well, folks who can apply for this grant include live venue operators or promoters, theatrical producers, live performing arts organization operators, relevant museum operators, zoos and aquariums who meet specific criteria, motion picture theater operators, talent representatives, and each business entity owned by an eligible entity that also meets the eligibility requirements. So I don't write this stuff. I just deliver it. I think our lawyers write this, and we got a lot of lawyers for a small agency, I tell you. A couple of other gotchas and quid pro quos. So you have to have been in operation as of February 29th, 2020. And if you received a PPP loan on or after December 27th, you'll have the SVOG reduced by the amount of the Paycheck Protection Program loan that you got. And again, I think Suzanne is going to talk about some of the specifics, the nuts and bolts. It's important to understand, where you fit into the applicant pool. So if you were in operation on January 1st, 2019, grants will be an amount equal to 45% of your 2019 gross earned revenue, up to a maximum of 10 million, whichever of those two is less. And for an eligible entity that began operation after January 1, 2019, grants will be for the average monthly gross earned revenue for each full month you were in operation during 2019, multiplied by 6, up to 10 million, whichever is less. The how to apply is on there. There are priorities, like for the first 14 days after the portal opens tomorrow. The first 2 weeks of priority go to entities that suffered a 90% or greater revenue loss between April 2020 through December 2020 due to the pandemic. So that's the first 2 weeks. The second 2 weeks, entities that suffered a 70% or greater revenue loss for that same period, April through December 2020. Third priority is for entities that suffered a 25% or greater earned revenue loss between one quarter of 2019 and the corresponding quarter of 2020. So there are subtle differences throughout the application process, and it's important to keep your application from being lost or locked or caught up in the mechanism, to make sure that your information is accurate. So I said you had to be operational on February 29th. There's some ownership restrictions. There's a 2-page thing in the thing on the website of eligibility requirements, and I encourage you to take a look at that. I won't go into all that right now. I don't believe in death by PowerPoint. There's a typical with government agencies. There's allowable uses of funds. Some things you can do and some things you cannot do. You can't pay ahead on principal. You can't buy real estate, but most other business purposes you can. Let's see. You can pay scheduled debt payments. I'll just mention that one, but you can't prepay the principal on anything. There are a lot of videos on the website that are helpful. I've watched most of them, and they actually are helpful. The longest one is the application portal overview, and it's just over an hour and 5 minutes. And the rest of them are shorter than that, 13 minutes, 14 minutes, 4 minutes, 2 minutes, 3.5 minutes. So I encourage you to watch those for the ones that pertain to the situation that you have. Yeah, I think I'll quit babbling about all that now and turn it over to Suzanne.
Thank you, Tom. This is Suzanne Darden, and thank you for the introduction. That was very nice. I am the finance specialist of our capital access team for the Small Business Development Center Network. The Small Business Development Center Network are here in part because of the grant money from the SBA to allow us to be a resource partner for them in every state of the union. And we're the Alabama SBDC. We're also powered by the host institution, which is the University of Alabama, but we have other host institutions around the state. We have 10 offices and over 40 people that work as advisors for businesses. All of this we do as a nonprofit, therefore we do not have to charge any of our business clients a fee to use our services. The nice thing about that also is that all you have to do in order to request our services is to register on our website, and then that information will be coming to you at the end. And when you register, there will be a vetting. We have a hub. We have someone that looks at the people who've registered and see who the best advisor or counselor would be available for you for what you need. So all you need to do is register at the one site, and then you will hear from us from that point on. I, as they have said, am the capital access specialist, and I really roam around from Birmingham, south, east, and west of Birmingham. We have another person like myself who is up in the North Alabama area. And what this means is I can really get to know our clients one-on-one. And what I wanted to say, and Tom, thank you for the information that you have shared with everyone. He is absolutely correct in that the website, they've done a really, really good job of trying to make that website up to date on a daily basis. And what that means is you can go there and you can look at those FAQs, and they will show you the latest generation and add the questions. And as those questions come in all over the United States, they're putting those questions and answers on. It's where we go really hourly or daily to make sure that if there's a question that we have, that it's not already answered on there. And what's good about this is after you have read that, or even listen to the YouTube, if that's what you prefer, then you can reach out to us or let us know you want a one-on-one where we're going to be able to come in as you've read it, but you're still not quite sure if, this is what you've read. Is it true? Heard other things. And I will caution everybody that you may have heard something in the past, and it may not be that was untrue at the time, but because of the dynamics of this disaster and how it keeps continuing on, what you might have been told 3 or 4 months ago when one rescue package was out, but the other one hadn't come out. The second one came out, and now the third one, and now, even a fourth one. It's very important that when you reach out to us or when you look on the website, get the latest version. And that's my caution to everyone, because there's so much information out there and misinformation because things have been updated and they've been corrected and they've been, it's just, Congress has been listening, and so has the SBA. And if there was a problem with a program that was unintentional or was not the consequence they were looking for, they've come back and done better for our businesses. So that's what I just want you to know. This is up to date. It's very user friendly. But even after that, if you just want one of us to be able to talk to make sure you read it correctly, that's what we're here for. And I always tell people, if I'm calling you and we miss each other and you're calling me back, it just means I'm on the phone with someone else. Does not mean I'm not going to get back to you. You can, leave a message. And that's how it is with our 800 number and all over the state. So please know we're here to help you. A lot of these questions that you may have to ask are particular to your business and your situation, best handled not in a group setting, one-on-one, and that's what we're here for. Okay, thanks.
Thank you so much, Suzanne and Tom. We appreciate that information. I think we have a few moments for some questions. We would love to allow the opportunity for anybody to ask Tom or Suzanne a question directly. So with that, if you'd like to, if you just unmute and introduce yourself, we'd love to take some questions. All right. Well, I had a couple that I jotted down as you guys spoke, so I wouldn't mind just throwing out a few so that if you guys did mention this, if you don't mind humoring me and maybe repeating it for our audience, I must have missed it if I did. But I know, Tom, that you mentioned that the portal opens tomorrow, but is there a deadline for individuals to apply for the grants?
Trick questions. I'm always interested in when it opens. I should be looking at when it closes. Man, that's a great question. Suzanne, do you know if there's a deadline for applications? I don't remember seeing one yet.
I do not. I think it was more of the priorities of what we're seeing. I think the big concern, Laura, is that it's going to be when the money runs out.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard more than anything else.
Yeah, me too. That the money will run out before the clock would, and don't know at this point if Congress will allocate any more money towards it or not. they think that the demand is going to greatly outstrip the supply in terms of what's available. So
That's what
one
I've
reason.
understood
That's
also.
one reason that SBA flowed the priority so that we could get the little folks in, because they have kind of been nudged aside with some of the other programs that came out under the pandemic.
Okay. And I do have a question in the chat here about an entity and asking if this would qualify. So the question is, the city operates a riverboat. Is it true that it would not qualify for this program?
I know there is a restriction about municipal owned entities.
Yeah.
Let's see. Are you on that, Suzanne?
No, I let me make sure I'm unmuted. Yes, there are some particulars around that. I think it has to be a separate entity.
Yeah.
And if it's just under the city, I don't believe that does make them eligible.
I know it's in the FAQs. I remember seeing something about municipally owned entities. So.
Okay.
And I do believe they have monies available for the cities and counties and states that are coming under a different entity, right? That monies will be sent to them, but it's not going to be under the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. And also, Tom, I know that you actually said this earlier, so this is repetitive, but just so that we make sure that we get that information out, could you repeat how the grant amounts requested, what businesses might base that on? I know you mentioned a cap of, I believe you said a maximum of 10 million, I think. But again, could you repeat what you said about what businesses should base their grant requests on?
And I have an excellent memory, but it's short, so I write stuff down and print it out. For an eligible entity that was in operation on January 1st of 2019, the grant will be for an amount equal to 45% of their 2019 gross earned revenue, or 10 million, whichever is less. And then for an eligible entity that began operation after January 1, 2019, grants will be for the average monthly gross earned revenue for each full month you were in operation during 2019, multiplied by 6, or 10 million, whichever is less.
I was just going to mention here, because we get a lot of questions at the SBDC about what constitutes gross earned revenue and what's included and what's not. And in the FAQs, they do a really, really good job of explaining it, because in different times and different parts of SBA lending, the terms may not be quite the same. So gross earned revenue is, the definition is in the FAQs. If you cannot find it and need some individual help, let us know.
That's true, because apparently the definition of earned gross revenue is going to be a little different for the restaurant fund than it is for the SVOG fund. So
that's correct. Yep. Which is why it's important to look specifically at the grant that you are applying for.
Yeah. And as Suzanne mentioned, there are basically 4 pieces of legislation that are providing the funding for this. So And as we learned with the PPP program, there were so many changes in midstream with that. And I envision that we may see some of those with this. I think our agency learned from what happened or didn't happen with PPP as that was rolled out. One of our bankers described that as building an airplane while it was already in flight. So I think we've done a better job of getting out in front of the SVOG grant. And I hope that our actual experience will bear that out as the portal opens and we start getting applications.
We have a follow-up question that I think is similar to the question about the city-owned riverboat. We have the Montgomery Museum, we have the Montgomery Zoo here, but we also have the Montgomery Museum of Fine Arts that are technically, I believe, city operated. I guess those would be the same as the riverboat example. They would need to check on how those entities are operated. Is that correct?
Yeah, they would.
Yep.
I was looking. There are some requirements about the definition of what constitutes, a venue or something like that. And I don't have it printed out here. I think it's in the FAQs. Yeah, typically sports events are held not to be performances, so. But again, I would refer you to the FAQs for the specifics. And again, it could change because this is a very dynamic environment we're in.
Okay, and so that was in reference to, it looks like Mike's question about sporting event baseball teams not qualifying.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? I think that's all we had in the chat, and that's all I jotted down. Anyone else have any questions for Tom or Suzanne? Okay, excellent. Well, Jenna has also been providing a few details as Tom and Suzanne have provided some update in the chat feature. As we mentioned at the beginning, we will also be distributing this to folks who may not have been able to join this morning. We have recorded this session for informational purposes. So we'll make sure to provide direct links to that website, but also the FAQ section in particular to make sure that you know, you guys have the information you need here. But with that, we appreciate the participation this morning. Tom and Suzanne, we very much appreciate your guys' willingness to participate with us and your expertise on this. I know that we have talked to you before throughout this process and just appreciate your partnership. So as always, the Chamber has resources on its website that follows kind of what's going on with COVID relief and COVID resources for our business community. And of course, our emails are always a good place to find information as well. We try to get that information out in a timely fashion. So with that, I hope everyone has a great day, and we just really appreciate your participation with us today.